Ta-da! I got people! There are people. Look! I got people! Alright, everybody, so welcome in. This is episode 14? 14, I believe, of Between the Pages. Possibly 15 if we count, Go the fuck to sleep. Totally depends on if you count Go the fuck to sleep. But yes, this is Between the Pages. We're going to be discussing the latest two books from the Harry Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. My favorite series. These two, both of them, like, yeah. It's really hard for me to, like, gesture. But those two, they need to read these books because they're gonna love them. And I have them on all the time because of all the nerd references between Star Wars, Tolkien, Norse shit. I am not even very fluent in Norse shit. I'm learning so much shit because these two are always in here helping me out. So, without further ado, episode 14 or 15 of Between the Pages is commencing. So welcome in, everybody. I want you guys to give a warm welcome to my favorite Thorsenheim. And over there is Massamoon, looking homeless, but we love him anyway. Anyway, so we got a huge thing to discuss. And I know I normally only tackle one book and I go into lots of different things underneath. We're doing two books and they're huge books. But amazing. We're gonna keep them very brief so we can talk about the intricate things that I found really interesting for Jim Butcher to put in his books as like inspiration or whatever you want to call it. So let's begin with Peace Talks. So the spoiler-free synopsis, if you are ready to read the book and you don't want any spoilers, this is safe for you to listen to. When the supernatural nations of the world meet up to negotiate an end to ongoing hostilities, Harry Dresden, Chicago's only professional wizard, joins the White Council's security team to make sure the talks stay civil. But can he succeed when dark political manipulations threaten the very existence of Chicago and all he holds dear? That comes from my favorite Goodreads. It was a wonderful spoiler-free review that one of the patrons posted. So that was your spoiler-free edition. I'm going to go into a few things that I found really interesting within the book itself. Battleground is where the other two will come in more heavily because it has a lot of different... I mean, it's going to be both. It really is. It's going to be both because of the comparisons that come in with Beowulf. Beowulf being a classic British work. We're really excited to show you guys all the little nuances that were found within this book. Or at least I am. They're just here to help me out. So, spoiler alert, this is about to get real. In Peace Talks, Justine, who is Harry Dresden's brother, Thomas's girlfriend, wife, plaything, whatever you want to call him, because Thomas is what is called a white court vampire. White court vampires don't live off the life force of human beings. They live off of the animal lust instincts. So anything that gets you excited, they feed off that life force. So not necessarily your blood, which is a red court thing. So Thomas, who is actually in love with Justine, it's hard for white court vampires to maintain meaningful love relationships because love actually hurts them. So they have this very strange triangle square thing that they do to get around that. But the thing is, Justine, Thomas's woman, is pregnant. And Thomas is worried about her surviving the delivery and the pregnancy itself because it's going to be a white court vampire. White court vampires feed off of the life force and it will literally drain Justine dry. But the really interesting thing is, what does that mean that Thomas and Harry's mother went through during her pregnancy with Thomas, because she actually died giving birth to Harry, who is mortal. Yes, he's a wizard, but still immortal. What is that? What is that? What is that? Barton, come in with a host. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Appreciate you. So what does that mean that their mother actually went through carrying and giving birth to Thomas? That's really crazy to me, because she was absolutely fine. So much so that she got pregnant again. She had Harry, and he was perfectly happy and healthy. But she died giving birth to Harry for reasons I don't think they actually went too much into detail. So that's an interesting concept overall, and something that we can definitely think about when it comes to the different ports of vampires within Butcher's universe. I want to move on to another interesting aspect. So we've talked about, what is his name? Waldo Butters before. Waldo is now a Knight of the Sword or Knight of the Cross, depending on which you believe, because while the Swords of the Cross are religious and iconic artifacts, most of them made from, not most of them, all of them made from parts of the cross that bore Christ. Butters took up the broken hilt of Fidelicius in the last book, I believe, that we covered, and it became a lightsaber. And what we discover during this particular book, Peace Talks, is that the lightsaber only harms evil. Does not hurt a living person, a living mortal that is not evil. Like, it just puts off heat, and they're like, oh, this is uncomfortable, but this doesn't hurt me. So that's an interesting concept. But then they start to muse about the swords actually possessing angels inside of them, not just like the faith and the, what do you want to call it? The swords have power, and they want to, they're considering the idea that it's not just the power of faith, which obviously we know that we put faith into artifacts and that gives them status, that gives them power over what have you. Like, even with like my earrings, they have diamonds in them. They're rocks. We give them value because we believe they have value, right? That's more or less a thing. So instead of it just being the power of faith, they start musing that the swords that the knights bear are actually vessels for angels. And angels decide whether or not what they're being used for is righteous, or what they're being used for or against is evil. So that was really interesting to me. So going down into another interesting fact, River Shoulders is what is known as more or less a Sasquatch, right? River Shoulders is one of the people that we've run into before, and Harry helped him during a really difficult time. Rivers described his son, which at that point in time was the Grendel. Grendel in this particular facet is more of a mantle instead of like a singular person. And his followers, the Grendelkin, the first Grendel meeting their demise to their Vikings, their champion Beowulf. And River Shoulders actually looks at Harry during this party that they're attending while they're talking about that, and he's like, you realize that Beowulf was Vadarung. And Vadarung, as we know in Dresden Files, is Odin. So, guys, we've talked about this before. How many different aliases does Odin have? And wow. Fucking wow. What do you guys think? Have you ever considered Beowulf not only as a mythological hero, but as an embodiment of Odin himself?
So I haven't thought of him as an embodiment of Odin, but I have seen allusions to him being a reference or an embodiment of Thor, because they both fight dragons, then they both end up having a hard time with that. And according to some various dragon scholars, they both did it wrong. So the idea of Beowulf being related to a god is not wholeheartedly different for me, but Odin specifically, that one's new. that one's new on me.
Well, I mean, we talked about this. We talked about this last time. Odin being Santa.
Yeah.
That was like a huge, like, okay, I can get behind this.
Not to go too far down a rabbit hole here, but and I'm really bad at math, but if I'm connecting all the dots, that means that Beowulf is also Santa.
Yes,
and
Beowulf is now Santa.
We're going. There's a lot to unpack there.
There absolutely is. What were you saying, Mass?
No, I'm basically in agreement with Orsenheim here.
Yeah, there were a lot of questions there, and I think this is an okay time to go on into what I had to say about, sorry, I'm checking my notes now because I had some notes on my phone that I wrote. But yeah, I feel like this is an appropriate time to go into actually discussing Beowulf, because this is actually the point in the stories where Beowulf was a huge, I don't know, epicenter. But, so most of us know, and maybe I know more than regular people because I studied classic British literature, but you get a kind of Scandinavian and Norse feel from Beowulf, but Beowulf itself is innately Anglo-Saxon. It is one of the oldest Anglo-Saxon works that we can like find and date. It was solidified and written down in Old English around 1000 AD, but the story is much older than that, which predates the determined time of Christianity. But if you recall in Beowulf, it is largely Christian, which makes it less Norse, but still you have the feel, you know? So this was clearly someone, a story from someone that had both regions and, oh god, what did we say? So it's based on the premise that Grendel is the spawn of Cain and damned for what Cain wrought on Abel. So you have Grendel, you have Grendel's mother, and Cain, blah, 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 right? But what does that mean to either of you, both of you, to have such a melding of perspectives? Okay, so I know it's very confusing, because like Beowulf it is very firmly Anglo-Saxon. It is very firmly Christian. But now we have Jim Butcher taking this iconic Anglo-Saxon character with, it's not to be confused with anything, because it is very clearly Danish is very clearly Scandinavian, and all the other kings that were actually historically mentioned and are true. It's not a huge leap. It's a great marriage, I think, personally. And if you guys hear that thumping, that is my child doing something crazy. But how crazy is this idea? Like, we're taking Odin, the god of Norse, and what have you. But we're also marrying it to a very firmly Christian story. So do you think that maybe Beowulf itself was just more or less renamed and maybe interworked, or are we just reaching too far with Jim?
I think it's a little bit of a reach with Jim Butcher on this one. I know that the time of writing for Beowulf is disputed by about 300 years. I think it's argued between 700 AD and 1000 AD. So I think it's a little bit of a reach with some of his stuff. I think he takes some leniencies with it, but I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing from his storytelling perspective. Does that make sense?
Sorry, I was on the on the speaker. But yeah, what do you think, Thor? Are we reaching too far?
I've always loved Beowulf, and I loved it for that sense that like it felt still relevant as far as how it ties into Anglo-Saxon culture, but it has these very thorough and obvious roots into Scandinavian myth, and I mean that's one of the reasons why it's taught in most English courses. You know, that's one of the reasons why it's one of the big literary classics, and I enjoyed the heck out of it for that. I don't necessarily think that it's a stretch. I think Butcher is using those roots. He's choosing to go more towards the Scandinavian roots, but he's also kind of doing his own thing with it. He's not just pulling it directly from it. He's taking it and using it to tell his story, and I don't think that's a stretch necessarily.
Well, what do you think about the idea that it could be, and I'm not picking on any one religion, but you see this a lot in different religions, the same story, different characters, and different reasons, but the same story. Do you think that that's a possibility? Like, something that might have been lost in maybe Norse mythology or what have you?
It's possible, but as I recall, isn't Beowulf like one of the oldest known works?
It is one of the oldest known works. It predates its actual recording of around 1000 AD, as we've said before. But most of the like word of mouth myths, they obviously have been changed and reworked to fit the ideas, the values of the culture that they're being told to or by, necessarily.
So basically, what you're suggesting then is, even though the works it's supposed to be detailing, that the deeds were long since, that by the time they were actually written, the narrative of the author of whatever poet wrote it, he added more or changed some of the context a little bit to fit the narrative of the audience of the time.
Yes. I mean, it could have been something that someone heard word of mouth mythology from a Norse culture or community and was retold in more Anglo-Saxon, also Anglo-Christian society, and it was reworked to fit that narrative. Like,
I can absolutely see that.
It's obviously not necessarily stealing it, but like that's how most religious stories happen. They're like, depending on your beliefs, obviously, if you hold true to everything that is written down in your holy works, then that is on you. But me, myself, I like to think of them more as like, what would you call them? morality tales, like
That's a good word for it.
like the Pilgrim's Progress. You remember that one? Yeah. But I think that could be a distinct possibility, because there were a lot, and for this particular episode, I did review Beowulf, and I was like, holy crap, this is like astutely Christian, because there were so many references to hell, which I really don't believe the Norse believe in.
They had a different version. It's not remotely the Christian version. Kind of lending to your point, though, Beowulf is also both critiqued and hailed as referencing other Scandinavian stories, other Scandinavian heroes. And so
most of which were actual historical figures that we have evidence of.
Right. So as far as that goes, we already know that the poet borrowed from some of these other myths and kind of linked everything in that way. So that lends to the idea that he could have also done that from the Christian angle, not just the Scandinavian angle. Absolutely.
All right. I got some comments here in chat. Let's look at them. I cannot read that, Kojo. I'm so sorry.
Thank you, Mass, for pointing out that Hel was the daughter of Loki, because anybody who only knows Norse mythology through the Marvel Cinematic Universe,
please don't say that,
was incredibly frustrated.
All right, Beowulf, as we know it, is probably a retold tale.
She was basically like the guardian of the underworld in Norse mythology, so I will at least give them that one, but...
Instead of Scandinavian folklore, a better word would be Germanic, and most likely North Sea Germanic folklore. See, that is a distinction that I would never have noticed. There's obviously a geographical region where Norse mythology, like, encompasses in their faith, and I don't actually know it. I can probably, like, circle it on a map, and I'd probably get it wrong, though. Right, Joe? We all need to brush up on our Norse mythology. By the way, stay tuned after for showing of Beowulf. But yeah, I just thought it was an incredible thing, and it might be too much of a reach. But there are a couple more things throughout the book that I had questions for you guys about. There was a character that we've run into a couple of times within these books called Ferrovax. Now, Ferrovax is one of the last remaining dragons in Dresden's universe. There was an incredible animosity between Odin, well, Vadarung at this point, which is interesting because later on in the other book, one of the more or less Valkyries is speaking to Dresden about his encounters with Vadarung, and she's like, bear in mind, mortal, you're dealing with something that is a step below what he actually is capable of. So Dresden's never seen him at his full capacity. But what is his deal with the dragon? Anybody? Anybody?
What is the name of the dragon in the Dresden Files that Vadarung has such an issue with?
Ferrovax. Is that significant at all, or is that just...
my brain went two completely different directions with it. So I know that one of the tales that Beowulf borrowed heavily from, and I believe Mass was the one that pointed this out, was the story of the dragon Fafnir, and I believe it was Sigmund was the one that fought him.
Sigmund,
Siegfried.
Sigmund's son, Sigurd the
Okay.
son.
That one I'm a little fuzzy on the details of, but it could be that Dresden was making a reference to that. Another completely different direction my brain went is that in Norse mythology, at the bottom of the world tree is a dragon that's slowly chewing on the roots of the tree, and during their version of the end of times, I believe, if I remember correctly, the dragon is supposed to consume the tree, and that's understandably something that Odin would not want to happen. And so I do believe that there's already a little bit of connective tissue there, just straight from Norse mythology.
Yeah, I think you're thinking of Nidhogger.
Yeah.
The dragon eating the world tree.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't know enough about Norse mythology because it was inexplicable to me. Like, during the whole scene where Odin and Fairvax were in the same room, which was like a giant gallery, they were like giving death glares to each other. Fairvax being described as one of the oldest dragons still alive, and then Odin being Odin, Vadarung. And I was just like, why are they staring each other down? Why do they hate each other? Because it looked like it was about to come to blows, and nothing happened. Like so nothing led up to that.
There is an incident that might have drawn some inspiration for that. Bear with me a second because I need to find it. There was an incident with Odin, Thor, and Loki with Fafnir's father. And I'm trying to remember exactly.
You've officially gotten outside of my pay grade here. That's not something I'm familiar with. I'm all ears.
Yes, we are here.
An incident where Fafnir was the son of for the life of me, I cannot remember his name, but he had 3 other brothers. One of those brothers' name was Otter, and all 3 brothers had the ability to shapeshift. Otter, as you could probably guess, preferred to take the shape of an otter, and he would, he was lazy. He liked to lounge around in the river, eat some fish, whatever. Fafnir would frequently take the form of a dragon, hence why he became a dragon later on. And then they had a 3rd brother, who was actually the blacksmith that reforged Sigurd's father's sword for Sigurd to go kill Fafnir. And I believe his name was Remus, something like that. But either way, so there was one day that Odin, Loki, and Thor were out for a stroll, and they were hungry, and they happened to find Otter lounging in the river eating a fish. And Loki was like, well, why don't we, kill the otter because we're hungry? And it's kind of like 2 birds, 1 stone. We'll get both the otter and the fish to eat. They didn't realize Otter was actually, a man shapeshifted into an otter. And so Otter's father found out that, they murdered his son, and he demanded that Loki and Odin repay him in weregild, which, is gold. Basically, they had to cover the corpse the pelt of Otter completely in gold, so not a single hair was exposed. And, which otherwise he was going to kill him. And on his head, he wore the Aegishjalmar, which was named in the helmet. It's also actually a runic symbol, but it stood for the helmet terror. So they were kind of terrified of him because he just kind of emitted that force. I cannot find the story that I'm looking for anymore.
This is fascinating because throughout the past few books, there have been several times where Dresden's like, okay, now you guys have to pay this weregild to this person's family because you murdered them. So.
That's right. In order to get the weregild that they needed to pay Fafnir's father, they basically had to go to a dwarf called Andvari, who had a ring that could magically produce gold. And they more or less kidnapped this dwarf and bullied him out of his ring, which they later had to use to cover the last strand of fur. But Andvari imposed a curse on that gold, which directly ties into the story of Sigurd the Volsung, which, in my opinion, is a saga that Beowulf draws heavily from as far as like some of his inspirations. But that's probably the closest thing that I could explain as to why maybe Odin has an issue with a dragon, because they weren't all too happy about being strong-armed out of a lot of gold by Fafnir's family.
Well, I mean, they seem to have a lot of interesting encounters with dragons, like, as an entirety, in my opinion. But thank you. I now have a little more light on that. Alright, so I'm gonna finish talking about, my last kind of point in peace talks. You guys can feel free to chime in. It's not about Norse mythology or anything like that. We are now talking about Ethniu, which is apparently the daughter of Balor, who was considered the last Titan, which was interesting. Okay, so we're all familiar with Greek/Roman mythology about gods, demigods, and titans. Titans being lesser but still very powerful beings. Yes? I'm not mistaken? No? You're good? Okay. So having this more or less antagonist of Ethniu being the daughter of Balor, she wields one of the most powerful weapons this universe has ever encountered. And of course, when it comes to series, the next book has to have more dramatic flourish than the last, yes? But we are just embarking on so... Yes, they actually... Okay, so that drove me crazy. I don't know if you guys know this. Secret about me. I don't have a whole lot of time to sit down and read books, so what I do is I listen to audiobooks. And, excuse me. James Marsters narrates most, if not all, of Jim Butcher's Dresden Files. And somebody please correct me if I am wrong. I looked this up because it drove me nuts. James Marsters pronounced that word that you just spelled, Pope, as Jotun. And I almost had an aneurysm because it is very clearly Jotun. I looked it up. I am not a great, like, Scandinavian Germanic speaker at all. But him saying Jotun, just like, I thought I was gonna die. Like, he kept saying it. And I was like, okay, stop.
That hurt my ears. It's a Jotun. It's because they're from Jotunheim. And it
drove me insane. I was like...
You say it drives me insane.
It hurts to come out of my mouth. Like, Mass, you obviously know my issues with that particular weapon. And how people say that shit just to piss me off. What is it they normally say? Jotun or something like that?
Yeah, they say Jotun. That like it's a hard.
They like to pick on me because I like having it from the original language. I like having it just right. So if I'm ever wrong, I want a correction. Like, I will never say osprey. It's osprey. It's osprey. It's osprey. I will never say osprey and be serious. But Jotun. Really? Where do you get that from? It hurt me. It hurt me a lot. Yes. So the thing with Peace Talks is, and I'm gonna have to cut it off there, because Peace Talks is basically a part 1. It leaves you on a cliffhanger, and speaking with one of my closest friends who also loves Dresden Files, he was like, you're so lucky that you have both of them together, because I had to wait like 2 months to get the ending, and I was like, oh my god. I would die. So we're going from the end of Peace Talks, talking about Ethniu, the daughter of Balor, as the last Titan, and going straight into Battleground. Now, we're going to do another spoiler-free synopsis, so I don't know if anyone's around who doesn't want spoilers, but we're going to go for it. So, Battleground is the latest in Jim Butcher's Dresden Files series. Things are about to get serious for Harry Dresden, Chicago's only professional wizard. In the next entry in the #1 New York Times best-selling Dresden Files, Harry has faced terrible odds before. He has a long history of fighting enemies above his weight class. The Red Court vampires, the fallen angels of the Order of the Blackened Denarius, the Outsiders. But this time, it's different. A being more powerful and dangerous on an order of magnitude beyond what the world has seen in a millennium is coming. And she's bringing an army. The last Titan has declared war on the city of Chicago. I don't know why it's just the fucking city of Chicago. Why? I don't understand. I like to think of it more as like, you know, in Buffy, how it's centered around this tiny town in California because it's on top of a hellmouth. So I'm gonna think it's something like that. Anyway. Declared war on the city of Chicago and has come to subjugate humanity, obliterate anyone who stands in her way. Harry's mission is simple but impossible. Save the city by killing a Titan. And the attempt will change Harry's life, Chicago, and the mortal world forever. This synopsis comes from, yet again, Goodreads. I'm sorry, Thor, I totally missed your comment there. So, you're saying that you're not familiar with the origins of the mythos, historically speaking, more so the tales themselves. Thank you for sharing that, Pope. You've inspired me to read a bit more. Aww. Yes, Pope is one of my favorite, more or less Germanic people. He lives in Berlin. He was from the Netherlands, I do believe. Pope, correct me if I'm wrong. That sounds like exactly how many Americans pronounce any European word. Pope, we're gonna be in a chat later, and we're gonna talk about words. I feel like suddenly find yes, it will suck up all our time. We do that. We are researchers. I think like all three of us like to dive in and get the facts. Yep. In reading up a little on Beowulf, found a suggestion that Tolkien's Gandalf is essentially Odin. Really? Really? This is where we're going? Gandalf's now Odin? How many aliases is he gonna have?
Listen, I stumbled across it, and now I'm connecting the dots, and I'll see the light of day in a week or two when I get done with this rabbit hole.
Right? Tolkien used a lot of the same mythology, just like Wagner in Ring der... I cannot say that one. Hope we're going to talk about that word later. But, dude, there is a translation of Beowulf by Christopher and J.R.R. that I need. Like, I need this in my life. I am so ready to get it. I just gotta... Yeah. Thanks.
Noted.
Noted. Pope is amazing. I love Pope. I knew that Tolkien was thoroughly inspired by Norse myths, and I could already see the parallels between the Grey Wanderer and Odin, but it's even deeper than I thought. Really? I'm maintaining for the rest of my life that I'm Nessa the Grey, because now that the Grey spot was vacated and Gandalf became the White, you know, I'm a natural selection right here. Like, you would choose me, yeah?
I'd vote for you.
It's not my king. I didn't vote for him.
I don't think it's an election, but yeah.
I mean, there's a council. I could totally get in. It'd be me. Anyway, I've heard an American French teacher say merci beaucoup. Like that. Well, sorry, no words. What's wrong with merci? Mercy Boko. What did you just say to me? What atrocity did you just say to me? That's even worse than the other day. We were all in a voice chat, and the other day, I believe Vic said something like he heard a teacher say, no, not a teacher. It was one of his friends. Vic was playing, what is that quest mask that we're playing now? I gotta say...
In what?
That quest, for... God, what is that? The new quest. God damn. I was like...
the exotic quest?
Yes. It's like the coup de grace, yeah?
So the semi-new one, yeah, the coup de grace.
Yeah, the coup de grace. So Vic was saying that someone told him that it was the coup de grace. And I thought that my ears were going to fall off. I said, what did you just say to me? Ring there. Can't say that. Pope is an old opera. Nublichen. I'm bad with German. I'm bad.
Keep in mind, German's very guttural. Use your diaphragm for it.
My voice was created to speak all the Latin languages. Yes, I do know quite a bit of Wagner's work, but that's about it. Which is pretty much a more brutal Lord of the Rings, and it's mostly drawn from Norse mythology. Okay, well, is there an English translation? And send me the link. Diaphragm now. Okay, that was my diaphragm. You got a guttural exasperation. I'm married a descendant of Wagner. Oh, nice. Yes, we do love Angela. But yes, my voice was not created for the guttural languages. I'm very bad with them. Alright, so we're gonna get into just a couple of nuances that I found interesting from Battleground that mostly these guys are gonna tell you about. So it should be no surprise. One of Harry's favorite nicknames for Vadarung, aka Odin, is One Eye. You have to know Dresden to know that he is that cheeky son of a bitch that we all love, and he's the only one that can get away with calling Odin One Eye.
I mean, about the only way he can get sassier is to just straight up call him a Cyclops.
Like, is that offensive? Do we think that he is offending Odin, or do we just think that Odin's brushing it off? You gotta love Dresden.
He's the lord of the Norse gods. I'm pretty sure he's used to getting a little bit of sass. He's also like the father of Loki. I'm pretty sure he's used to getting a little bit of spite back.
A little bit. Okay, so one of the things about One Eye in this particular thing, so Battleground is basically the entirety of the war that is being waged between Ethniu and her army of, what are they called? They're the Outsiders, but they have another name. And for the life of me, it's like escaping me. I don't know. They live in outer space and / or in the ocean. Very deep in the ocean. But, in any case, it should come as no surprise to either one of you, but I need to know more about, Odin riding in on Sleipnir. Am I even saying that right?
Sleipnir.
One more time.
Sleipnir.
Sleipnir. Okay. Explain to me why this thing has 8 legs, please. Anybody? Anybody?
It's a child of Loki, as I remember correctly.
It is.
Yeah.
But also fast as fuck.
Yeah, it's very, very fast horse. That's also technically Odin's grandchild.
It sounds awfully terrifying. Like, when described in the book, all I can see is like this black-furred, red-eyed, 8-legged giant horse thing. And I'm just like, what?
Yes, about right.
That. What?
Yeah.
Because they also describe in here, so Queen Mab, she's the queen of air and darkness. Yes, she is the Fae queen of winter, so evil. But everyone has to band together to go against Ethniu and the Fomor! God damn it, I knew I'd figure it out. They're called the Fomor, not just the Outsiders. Okay, so the Fomor, which are beings that you cannot even fathom how they exist. They morph into these creatures let's just say Harry nicknames one of these creatures Octokongs. Think about a giant gorilla with octopus arms.
Oh, thanks.
I don't know if they have legs, but just like tentacles. And I'm just like, okay.
I'm gonna note that.
So they're the Fomor. And Queen Mab, she's riding a unicorn. But this is not your fucking regular, beautiful, white-furred, gentle horse creature. No, this looks more like when it's described. Think about the horse creatures that draw the carriages in Harry Potter, and you can only see
Thestrals?
them. Yes.
They give an 8-legged thestral.
Well, no, not 8-legged. They only have 4 legs, but this is a thestral unicorn. It looks like death itself. And yeah. These are like beasts that I do not ever want to come up against. I'm just going out there and saying it. Like, wow. You guys got any cool information about Sleipnir? Am I saying that right?
It is the son of Loki, direct son of Loki, because Loki decided one day that he was going to have sex with a horse.
Yeah.
And that's where Sleipnir came from.
Because
and then Odin, when Sleipnir had kids, Odin gifted one of his horses, Grammy, to Sigurd the Volsung.
Okay.
Side note, back when we were talking about the connection between Odin and Santa, Odin's 8-legged horse is the reason why Santa has 8 reindeer.
There is that. I did know that part. I never thought about Loki having sex with the horse. That one. Thank you for that. I am now shocked beyond
we
belief.
can make it better. Sleipnir and Jormungand, the world serpent, and Hel are all siblings.
Don't forget Fenrir.
Oh god, yeah, and the wolf that eats the moon. That's he's in there too. Those are all children of Loki. And you thought you had a dysfunctional family. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, Dutch Saint Nicholas and Black Pate comes from the Black Ravens Odin had to spy on the people. Oh, that reminds me. Holy crap, I don't have the book in here. Holy crap. Guys, entertain the masses while I go find my book.
I actually didn't know that about Odin's ravens. And I'm not even going to try to pronounce their names. I know how I usually say it, but I'm pretty sure it's wrong.
But no, I do love the story of St. Nicholas and Black Pate. Anyway, so I have to have this because there is a specific passage that I want to read that is absolutely beautiful, and we're going to get to it. I'm just glad that I realized it now. So thank you guys for scarring me for life. I'm never going to look at Tom Hiddleston the same way again. That's a lie. I'm going to look at him exactly the way I've always looked at him.
Just also with a horse.
No, I'm going to block that from my memory because leave me alone.
Think about that Allspice commercial. The look at your man. Now look at me. I'm on a horse.
Look at
but
me.
with Tom Hiddleston.
Good God. Okay, look. I'm just saying I have Tom Hiddleston brain. Okay.
I love you, Mass. That's a fantastic comment.
What?
Thank Odin it's Wednesday.
It's Thursday.
It is Thursday, but listen, I like the commentary.
I think that horse might not be the worst thing he had a kid with. I mean, I volunteer as tribute, but you know.
Oh.
Anyway,
Loki had some questionable one-night stands.
Haven't we all?
No. Not on that scale.
Well,
not with a horse?
Well, no, but, like, there have been times I wake up and I'm like, that's not what I wanted to do last night. But yeah, anyway. That's more of like a Coyote Ugly than like whatever he did. Okay.
Oh, come on.
So we're getting there about some really cool things. Thank you for scarring me. So one of my favorite, okay, in case you guys didn't know, Dresden always makes reference to really cool pop culture references that I love, absolutely love. Most of them are book related because Harry Dresden being a wizard, he's not able to like play video games and like watch movies on like really expensive digital devices. He's kind of old school about it. So he's always talking about Star Wars. He calls his apprentice my Padawan. He's always talking about Lord of the Rings and things like that. So of course I'm in love with him. So one of my favorite quotes is, "Where did you hide our families?" He's talking to his apprentice, his Padawan, and she says, "Right across the street, so they could watch the whole thing, like in the Fellowship." And I could not love Molly more, because Molly has become the Winter Lady, which is a mantle that has typically driven their bearers insane. So much so that the last one, Harry didn't kill her, but she was killed. Maybe he did, I've forgotten. But he had to kill her because she was trying to basically end the world. And, yeah, we just can't have that. But she would do things like just like wander around naked, covered in blood, and you're just like, maybe you shouldn't be doing that, crazy girl. But yeah, well, this was back when we were just learning about the Fomor, the Outsiders, and she was basically going to have Harry kill Queen Mab, who is the Winter Queen, and the only force that is keeping the Fomor at bay and keeping humanity alive. So she was gonna have Harry kill Queen Mab because she had everyone convinced that Mab was the one that was insane, when really it was her. So there was a whole plot there in the last book about that. Well, not the last book, but the one before that. And so Molly is now bearing this weight, and she's doing it with the integrity that she still maintains from what she learned when she was with Harry as his actual apprentice as a wizard. So I thought that was beautiful and amazing that they still have this connection, and they're still both fucking nerds. So you guys really have to read these books. Like, please read these books. I will love you forever. I'm gonna love you both forever anyway, but just please. So besides that, we're gonna get into more about what you guys can help me with. So spoiler alert, huge spoiler alert, if you plan on reading these books, and I'm sorry guys, this is gonna get spoiled for you because I need you. If you plan on reading these books, don't listen to this. It's gonna break your heart. But Aaron Murphy, right after they finally start getting together, like actually deciding to be in a relationship together and start working towards it, like she had just started taking care of Maggie, who is Harry's daughter. She dies. She's killed. She had slain the Jotun. She had slain him. And we're talking about a completely mortal woman. She fucked him up. He was dead. But she was murdered, basically, by a completely human, stupid asshole that we hate. And he's been kind of a pain in your ass for a few books now. And it was hard. Harry had to quickly process that, and Waldo Butters, the bearer of Fidelicius, the only lightsaber sword of the cross, was the only reason that Harry didn't immediately lose his humanity when Murphy died. Because Harry's killed before. He's killed mortal people before in pursuit of of the good of mankind, humanity, and justice. He has never murdered anyone before. But when Murphy was shot, this is like books like 17, I believe, in a series, and you've seen from book 1 this love that they've always had for each other, but like it was never a kindled love, you know? It was, and they had just started being together, and it was a beautiful, wonderful thing, and now she is gone. And the equivalent of Valkyries is in the book. I can't think of what they're called at this moment in time. It's probably gonna go over it. I have it marked in here. Anyway, one of them, we call her Miss Guard, respects Murphy and what she has done as a warrior, as a mortal warrior, her entire life and career. Has only been in the pursuit of justice, and we've lost Mass. Uh-oh. And so what we see when Harry finally gets done with the war, when we finally get to rest for a minute, he goes back to where Murphy was laying in reverence, because they took a few minutes to lay her to rest, basically, while he still had to go and fight the war. And all that is left... Nick, can you tell me what is left instead of her body? Do you know?
I don't know.
All that is left in the, on the board where she had lain was a Volknath. Basically, Odin himself ordained that Karen Murphy was now among the honored shield maidens. And damn.
That's pretty awesome.
Damn, did that hit hard. And you know what? I'm gonna make it hit hard for you guys because I'm gonna read it. So, here, this is a passage from Jim Butcher's Battleground. Oh. Guard looked at me, suddenly wary. Before you speak, know this. The being you have dealt with is only a facet of the being whose symbol that is. Referring to the Volknath. And I had touched on this earlier, Vatarung not being the full weight of Odin. His guises are created to diminish him into something a mortal mind can readily accept. But though he may not have the strength he once did, that being is yet an elemental one. He does not accept insults or threats lightly. Good. Because I'm not delivering them lightly, I said, a low thunder growling its way into my quiet words. You tell Odin that Harry Blackstone Copperfield Dresden says upon his name that if he doesn't treat Murph better than I would myself, I'm going to kick down his door, pluck his fucking ravens, knock him down, kick his guts out, drag him to the island, and lock him up in a cell with Ethniu. Guard blinked once. I beat a divine being once, I said. If I have to build a nation to get it done, I'll do it again. You tell him exactly what I said. Guard stared at me for a moment. Then a slow, if sad smile touched her face. I'll tell him, she said. Then she added gently, it will please him, I think, if not the twins. Have no fear for your shield maiden. In our halls, warriors who died for family, duty, love, are given the respect such as a death deserves. She will want for nothing. I nodded. Then after a while I said, if she's in Einhajar now. I really hope I said that right. Guard shook her head. Not until the memory of her has faded from the minds of those who knew her. That is the limit not even the Allfather may cross. She, I said. I blinked several times. She wasn't real forgettable. She was not. agreed the Valkyrie. And she has earned her rest. She earned better than a bullet in the neck I spat. All warriors die, Dresden, Guard replied. And if they die in the course of being true to their duty and honor, most would count that a fitting end to a worthy life. He did. So yeah, that was a rather heated exchange because we're talking about a woman that this very evidently powerful wizard loved dearly. And he just threatened a god after kicking the shit out of a titan. So, yeah. Guys, how do you like the fact that he was going to pluck the ravens?
I mean, that feels a little insulting. And I wholeheartedly vibe with his where he was mentally in that moment. But if his potential beef is with Odin, maybe not go for Odin's pets. That's rude. Kick his ass all you want, that's fine. But leave the ravens alone. They didn't do anything. I get it, though. I get it.
I just thought it was funny because Guard was like, the twins are gonna get a kick out of this. Ugh. But yeah, it's hard hitting, and I feel like I miss some of the alliterations, you know, as I'm not as familiar, and that's why I have you guys always having my back at answering my questions and doing things like this with and for me. I always appreciate you guys. Hope you know that. Anyone have any information about this Vulknut so I can know a little about it? Because obviously, Nick, I know about you. I know that it means a great deal to you, but can you explain it to me and to the masses, as it were?
Yeah. Can you give me a half second to go get mine?
Okay. You're not wearing it?
No, it's been home for like 2 days, so I don't usually wear it in the house.
No.
Oh yeah, I'll be right back.
Nas, what do you got for me? Talk to me about this Vulknut.
I know that berserkers used to wear it a lot as to show their dedication to Odin in battle. Usually people that had it died a pretty gory death, from my understanding.
Neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I keep wearing my druid heart, so feel like Nick is naked without his Vulknut. I've never seen him without it.
I rarely go anywhere without it, but it stays in my jewelry box whenever I'm home. Okay, so for anyone who hasn't seen one, this is a Vulknut. Now this one's traditionally the Vulknut is just the interlocking triangles. Mine's a little different with the snake eating itself around it, but and Mass, feel free to interject and correct me if I'm a little funky on the history, but the symbol itself is Odin and his two brothers, which I'm probably mispronouncing their name, but I've always pronounced them as Vili and Ve. And for me personally, I have several brothers, two of which are blood, and this has always, for me, been more a representation of family and been a representation of the love that I carry for them and the connection therein. And it's always been a symbol of Odin throughout pretty much every nerd culture reference in Norse mythology that you can find. It splits off into a bunch of other symbols, but that's the original one, and I think it's perfectly fitting for him to leave that as a symbol on her grave, and not just as a reference to what he's doing and what he's trying to recognize, but also kind of putting his own little spin on it.
It is, in my opinion, really fitting, because if I remember correctly, Valknut actually means burial of the slain warrior. So
that I have no idea. But yeah, I just thought it was very interesting that Odin himself declared her, declared Murphy a shield maiden, and she from that moment on is destined to become what is known in the Dresden Files, and I don't know if this is actually part of mythology, but it's called Einhajar, and I really hope that I'm pronouncing that right. But basically, she's destined to become a Valkyrie.
So I don't know if you're pronouncing it right, but that is straight from the mythology. In the Norse mythology, at the end of all times, the honored dead will fight alongside Odin and the other gods to try and stave off the darkness, to stave off the end of times. And those, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce it, but they are essentially considered the honored dead. They live in a place of reverence alongside Odin in his halls until the end of times.
Then it is definitely fitting that he declare it for all to see. Okay, so we're gonna wrap up. Thank you guys so much for being here for that. There's one little thing at the very end that I want to mention, only because it has something to do with me. And you guys can feel free to chime in if you guys have any nerd culture references that could be linked to this. So at the end of Battleground, where we've finished the war, it was literally blood in the streets. Mortals volunteered to help defend the city of Chicago against the Fomor, against a Titan, and they saw things that you could not possibly cover up anymore, because in the Dresden universe, anything that is weird is covered up by some kind of loose explanation that obviously if you're in the know you can see right through, but if you don't want to be in the know, you can pass it off as, oh yeah, that makes sense. So now that we've had an all-out war in the city of Chicago, basically the realms have been exposed, and they're trying to do damage control to lessen the probability that mortals will rise up and try to exterminate the immortals and all the other realms, such as the Fae and wizards, obviously. But I thought it was very interesting that at the very end, their biggest concern came from what they only refer to as the librarians. Now, I love this, because what they explain the librarians are in this reference is that they are a facet of the Library of Congress, which if you know me, you know I want to go work there. The Special Collections Division, the Librum Bellum, which is Latin, obviously. What is that? I cannot think for exactly the direct translation. If someone wants to hit that up for me, I'd appreciate it. But these librarians, as they are referenced to, have Masonic connections. Like, they have information that basically insiders of the Freemasons have passed to them. And it's if you is Library of War. I feel like it's Book of War. That's close. Book of War. It would probably be War Book or something like that. But either way, you guys know me. I am your resident librarian, and I would definitely be going to investigate some crazy magical shit that went down in Chicago. But yeah, I just thought that was really interesting, and now I'm excited to go to DC, to the Library of Congress, and be like, where's your Special Collections Division? You know? Can I put in an application? They're gonna look at me like I'm nuts, and they're not gonna be far off. But I thought that was very interesting. What do you guys think? I think that if I were to watch that show, The Librarians, that it would kind of go into that, but I've not watched that show, so I wouldn't be able to tell you.
It's on my to watch list. I haven't gotten there yet either.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
I
Mass, you've watched the entirety of Netflix. Is The Librarians any good?
I don't think I've ever seen it.
Oh my god.
it's on. I don't think it's on Netflix.
Is it not? Oh, wow.
No, I think it's on Hulu.
I've seen it, but of course there was like 2 or 3 movies before the series. I'm just gonna start that, of course. But yeah, I thought that was infinitely entertaining, obviously for me. Is Travelers any good? I haven't seen that. Sorry.
I'm a big fan of just about any time an author decides to make a shadowy, covert version of a public forum.
Yes.
Whether it's Librarians or I can't pronounce his name, but there was an author a few years ago who came up with a shadowy portion of the National Park Service called the Department of Mythical Wildlife, and I've decided that I work for them.
You've decided that. Yes, guys, I've decided that I work for the Library of Congress Special Collections Division.
I have a badge and everything.
I love it. I love it. But yeah, I just thought that was really interesting that they are more afraid of these librarians coming to because they were asked, like, what is it that they fear? And they're like, they're here to learn. They're gonna learn about us. They're gonna know. They're gonna figure it out. And they're just more threatened that their secrets are gonna be exposed. So.
Leave it to a librarian.
Leave it to a librarian. But yeah, that is our episode today, guys. I appreciate everyone coming in. I appreciate these two for helping me out, as always. Mass, Thor, you guys are great. I love you to death. But yes, that was our episode of Peace Talks in Battleground for Jim Butcher. Oh, I just realized you mentioned the tree in Beowulf, which could be more... I don't know that word, sweetie. As to Germanic origins and the arrival of Christianity, as Germanic people didn't have temples but used to practice their faith under trees. Now, then came Christianity. First thing they did was chop down these trees. Sweetie, I have been revealed. It has been revealed to me. Nick, you can attest to this. I am a druid at heart. You guys probably can't see this.
It's true.
I can't remember which one of you pointed it out to me, but somebody said that you are most definitely a druid. Nick said that I had to be like a sorceress and a druid.
Yeah, you're definitely a multi-class. But...
And it would basically be you touch my trees and I will eat your soul. But I'm gonna get this into focus. That. Chemical heart. Branches. I call it my druid heart, and I wear it as if it were my own talisman. Yeah. There it goes, yeah. Now I gotta put it back together. But yes.
I'm just holding on to mine because I don't want to put it on yet.
If I were to worship anything, I, as you guys know, as most of you know, my official religion is listed as Jedi. I believe in the Force, but it is more the force of nature, and all living things in a symbiotic relationship. So that is my belief. And I worship, quote unquote, in nature. I recharge my spirituality by being out in nature. I have to be near the water. I have to be near trees. I will literally wither and die if I'm not somewhere outside. Yes.
I just read Pope's newest comment. I didn't know any of that, and I'm already in. You've officially given me a new rabbit hole, because I'm all about that kind of story.
I love that. I absolutely love that.
I'm also seeing some parallels to Game of Thrones, and I don't really want to go down that rabbit hole. But
Let's not
the
and say
whole
we
thing
did.
of religions
Look.
there with trees and things, and
Okay, look.
yeah.
I do not dispute that Martin has wonderful stories that are very intricate and they're great, but he basically stole everything from Tolkien. let's be realistic here. He doesn't have an original basis. It was all Tolkien, and that's just my stance. It's an unpopular opinion. You can hate me for it, but and Tolkien stole from Wagner. Yes.
I haven't actually read any of Martin. I just saw the TV series, so I won't profess to be a Game of Thrones expert on any stretch.
I did. I read them. Yeah. And Wagner stole from old mythologies. It is a cyclical relationship. Yes. And the circle is round again. I just, I don't know. I think I get so upset whenever I think about Martin versus Tolkien, and I'm just like, I think it might have had something to do with the epic rap battle, honestly. Like, let's be real about that. I watched that and I was like, there's no way that like Martin would win against Tolkien. But
I haven't
maybe
seen
that's...
that one, so I yeah.
Maybe I just have some like bias in me.
I could get there. It's okay.
No? No? There you go. You see more. I have slight bias. And for those of you that don't know, yes, Nick and I have matching tattoos. Matching in the sense of they say the same word.
Yeah. There's yeah.
They do. They say.
I don't know that we could call it matching, but it is the same word. It's just
the same word. They match. We are a pair. Yes. Okay, so I'm gonna end the segment. We can have post-chat discussion, but I gotta end the segment before my editor murders me in my sleep. Which I don't think he'd actually do, but... so thank everyone for coming in here. I appreciate you so much for hanging out. Pope, I loved having you in here and having your input because you have a perspective that we would never have had in without you. And yes, you should go to sleep. These two are amazing. They're wonderful. If you don't already love them as much as I do, well, you're never gonna love them as much as I do. It's just impossible. But they're amazing, and I love them dearly. So thank you guys for coming in. I appreciate you so much, and I can't wait to see you on the next episode of Between the Pages.